getting the market and business week started here on the side of the African continent with the inauguration today of Nigeria's new president, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's a public holiday in Nigeria. The markets and businesses are closed. But very quickly, just on Friday before the market went on for the weekend, the all-share index down by 30 basis points. The BRVM fell by 0.75%, that's 75 basis points, still below the 200 level. The Egyptian market started its market week on Sunday. The EGX30 went up by 52 basis points. That's a very positive start to the new week, while the Nairobi stock market gathered 27 basis points, holding it below the 100 level for the all-share index, while the South Africa's main composite up by 0.54% on Friday. So technically speaking, the last Friday of the month was on the positive side for a number of frontier African markets. Zimbabwe's stock market moved up the most, heading towards 100,000 on the all-share index in Harare. Let's put that down. Roll up the East Africa facing cash crunch. President William Ruto of Kenya is blaming the revenue agency, the KRA, for officials of the company, of the organization, for grafts. It's not the first time since President Ruto took office last year, and he's very keen on how much revenue the Kenya's revenue agency will be able to bring in as the administration gets choked on what you call crunch liquidity in the FX side. You got inflation under pressure, and of course you've got the whole debt that Kenya is sitting on. Today, the Central Bank of Kenya under Patrick Njoroge, who is today will be his final day as head of the bank in terms of the monetary policy, will be deciding on interest rate. It's anyone's guess how the Central Bank of Kenya will decide later today. We'll keep an eye on Patrick Njoroge and what will be his parting shot as the Central Bank governor of Kenya. The new president who was nominated by President Ruto, the new governor nominated by President Ruto, will be taking office from early next month. Patrick Njoroge will be sorely missed at the Central Bank of Kenya. In the meantime, President Ruto has appointed the former MP Criticos as the chairman of the Kenya Trade Investment Network Agency, while Nairobi is going to host the 2024 annual meetings of the AfDB, that's the African Development Bank Group. That was announced in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt on Friday as curtain foil on the 2023 annual meetings of the AfDB in Egypt. So all roads leads to Nairobi next year for the AfDB's annual meetings. And Tanzania says its LNG project cost has risen to about $42 billion US. And that's the largest size project in the entire Southern Africa, as well as the East African community. And President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda and his counterpart in Tanzania, Madam President Hassan Suluhu, have commissioned a joint 14 megawatts hydro project in Uganda. That's part of the energy cooperation that was seen within the East African corridor. Take that to West Africa. Of course, you know Nigeria's big story already is in print everywhere, all over the world. Nigeria's new president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, takes office today. Yesterday was the departure dinner for President Muhammadu Buhari, who is living after 8 years in office. One of the key attendees was at the dinner yesterday was the AfDB president, Nigerian-born Dr. Akumi Adesina, who read out a very impressive statement to the new administration, asking Bola Ahmed Tinubu to hit the ground running of his administration by removing Nigeria's contentious and naughty fuel subsidies. He also had a few ideas on how the administration should proceed on the areas of social investment, infrastructure, energy, power, and everything else in between. You need to read up that statement by the AfDB president, who also thanked President Buhari for nominating him nearly 10 years ago to head the AfDB, the DFI. Additionals has about just a few more years to go also as a head of that DFI. And the Nigerian Senate moved in the final minutes to amend the Central Bank Act, which will allow for the ways and means threshold to extend to 15% from the current 5%. Of course, Nigeria has one of the lowest level of ways and means legislation in West Africa. A couple of countries in the region had that at about 10%. Now the Senate is moving to take that up to 15%. It's been one of the most controversial issues under the President Buhari's administration, who is living today, about how much has been borrowed in ways and means from the Central Bank of Nigeria, how and when those trillions of naira will be securitized. And the new horizon, if this go through the Senate, will be a new way of borrowing for the new incoming Tinubu's administration. And good news for Gbenga, who is the founder and CEO of Nigeria's Ftutterwave, which is that iconic Pan-African payment service company, is now been appointed as a member of the Wall Street Journal CEO Council. We congratulate him for making that very huge steps forward and putting Nigeria's name right there among the world's top CEOs as put together by the Wall Street Journal. And West Africa's oil flow to Asia has collapsed nearly 40% since Russia went to bed with Asia and China in terms of oil outflow, considering those sanctions by the Western powers, including Europe and the United States, as well as Britain. So Russia is doing a whole lot more oil flow through with Asia and China rather than Africa. U.S. oil flow to Russia, to China or the Asian countries is also down roughly 35%. And the Bank of Ghana says it's going to reverse foreign exchange control measures, part of the deal that was signed with the International Monetary Fund to allow Ghana's government access those $3 billion, initial $600 million be made possible after that approval just about a week or so ago. Let's take it out down to Southern Africa, where Eskom says the load shedding will continue, but the rand was up very slightly Friday to about 19.73 on the dollar, as the market was not impressed so much with the 50 basis points hike by the Leseja Kagyango's central bank's MPC. 5 members voted to raise South Africa's interest rate. That takes prime lending to 11.75%. And Ramaphosa says he's giving the new electricity minister the power to do procurement for the energy sector. So he took that out of the pockets of the power minister and gave it to the new minister in charge of electricity. It was also a new cabinet office that was created by President Ramaphosa just a couple of months ago. And gold resource company, Pan-African Resource in South Africa, mid-level company, says its resources production crashed more than 20%. Because of failures by Eskom to provide enough electricity for gold mining in South Africa. And the AfDB is reporting that Zimbabwe's economy will grow about 3.2% for this year, while Angolan President Lourenço is in Italy. He's asking Italian businessmen to invest in infrastructure, energy, and everything else in between in the country. Angola is one of Africa's top oil producers. So that takes you all to where it all started. That's North Africa, with Egypt being the good host to the AfDB's annual meetings for 2023. Now all delegates are left over the weekend. Now it's what comes up after those talks and meetings and conferences been held for past week. In the meantime, the Egypt and Oman Joint Investment Fund to be finalized in the last quarter of this year. That's what the minister says out of Egypt. While NIDSAT, which is listed on the Egyptian stock market, says it posted 2.8% year-on-year higher profit in the first quarter. That was January to March. Morocco's Investment Commission has approved 21 projects, worth about $7.6 billion in the country's budget for the current fiscal year, which traps into 2024. And Casablanca Stock Exchange, that's the Morocco stock market, by the way, has joined the TradeView platform. That platform allows you, if you trade in the Morocco stock market, to have a more global view of all the stocks, makes it a lot more easier to trade the stocks on the Casablanca stock market. And we say the market is open for business much better in Casablanca. Congratulations, folks. And that's your Frontier Opening Bell this Monday, the 29th of May. I am Bosi Namafai. I'll see you soon.